Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Now, I'm going to tell you, this is exactly why you appreciate somebody like Ted Cruz. This is exactly why. Look at what's happening up in New Hampshire. You know, these people on our side, some of them are acting so foolishly, it's hard not to just start making fun of them and telling jokes and laughing about what's going on. Except it's pretty serious, what we're all facing. Hi, folks. How are you? Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Okay, so we're in New Hampshire, and the New Hampshire primary is today, and people are showing up and voting. And one of the statistics being put out there is that 40% are undecided. And of that 40% that are undecided, a majority of them happen to be moderates and independents. And so what is the result of that? Well, we got Jeb Bush running around saying he's never, ever going to criticize Barack Obama. He would never stoop to doing it. Well, that's really helpful, isn't it? And then Jeb Bush runs around and saying even if he had to do a constitutional amendment to overturn the Supreme Court Citizens United case, he would do it. Citizens United is a free speech case that allows anybody to contribute to political campaigns, including the dreaded corporations people like Hillary Clinton give speeches to, and so forth. Then you've got Kasich out there saying that he's further to the left of Hillary Clinton. And then you've got Christie running around doing what he's doing. All three of these guys trying to make themselves look like the biggest squish moderates you have ever seen. They're certainly trying to make themselves not look like they are Republicans. And that's what annoys me. They're in a Republican primary, and rather than stand up and try to sell and try to promote the whole concept of the necessary steps we need to take to reverse the trends in this country, to save this country, to stop the direction we're going. Instead, what do? They pander. Now, I know people would say, but Rush, they have to. The object is to win elections. I understand all of that. But this is not, winning elections is one thing, but there's also a much larger objective here, too. And you're not going to turn this country around by not criticizing Barack Obama. And to go out and try to win an election on that basis in a Republican primary, I don't care if it is New Hampshire. I don't care if 40% of the undecided are moderates and independents. They're moderates and independents. They're unattached for one reason or another. They don't like one or both parties. Well, go out and grab them with what you really believe. I don't believe that Jeb Bush really wants to overturn Citizens United, and I don't really believe Jeb Bush doesn't think Obama's done anything worth criticizing. But to go out there and say that he won't do it, why don't you just sound like every Republican inside the Beltway the past 7 years? Where's that gotten them? It's stunning to me. And I'm telling you, we're on the verge here of just starting cracking jokes and laughing at these people, which would be the fun way to approach it. But things are pretty serious here. And this is why, say what you want about Ted Cruz, but Mr. Ted Cruz would never engage in this kind of watering down his beliefs. I know, but Rush, Cruz is not supposed to win here. He knows he doesn't have to win here. He knows he's not going to win. So he doesn't have to. Doesn't matter. He wouldn't do this kind of thing anyway. If victory, and this is the difference. If victory were at hand and all Ted Cruz had to do is go out and say, you know what, I'm through criticizing Obama, it'd be the end of him the rest of the way. He wouldn't do it. I got a lot of people. There's a story here of all places, Vox. Everybody underestimating Ted Cruz. And I think, I've tried to make that point any number of circuitous ways in the recent past. But there's if conservatism and the values inherent in conservatism, the founding of America, all of these things, if they matter to you, the one thing you'll never doubt is where Ted Cruz is on any of it. But with these guys, why, they're fluid, they're flexible. It depends on what is needed at the time. If they'll do this in the New Hampshire primary, then they would sure as hell do it in the White House if it came to it that they had to do something to gain favor, curry favor, end up looking good, or what have you. I can't believe this. I mean, except that I can. You really do. Jeb Bush, I will not blame Barack Obama for a single thing. He vowed yesterday that he will not scapegoat Obama for any challenges he faces should he be elected president. My pledge to you, when I'm president, I will not blame Obama for a single thing. He said that at a Nashua Country Club in Nashua, New Hampshire. Now, I understand the point. He's out there saying, look, I'm not going to be what Obama is. And I'm not going to, blame Bush and blame my predecessor. He's trying to defend his brother. I understand all that. But I'm sorry, this doesn't work. The problems that we face are directly linked to Barack Hussein O. In reversing the direction this country's going, you're going to have to explain to people why you're doing it. And part and parcel of explaining why you're doing it is to explain why we're in the mess. And you cannot leave Obama out of that. He is the mess. We can argue all day long about whether he's an incompetent boom, swerving and stumbling into one disaster after another, or whether it's some grand design, which I have to believe, as you well know. But to telegraph, I'm sorry, I'm not going to blame Obama for a single thing. I'm really tired of politicians that blame their predecessors. Okay, a little family loyalty here. I get that. I have a personal kind of feeling about it, having watched it for a while. I hope you want a president who actually accepts accountability and responsibility. Well, yeah, for things you do. See, this is the kind of thing. We've got moderates, we've got independents. This is another version of I'm the guy who can cross the aisle. I'm the guy who can work with the Democrats. I'm the guy who can make Washington work. I'm the guy that can execute bipartisanship. I'm the guy that doesn't look at the other side as the bad guys and the enemy. I'm the guy. Okay, so you got 40% of the New Hampshire electorate maybe made up of people who are that squishy. Fine. You want to tie yourself to something you say in the New Hampshire primary for the rest of your campaign, the rest of your presidency if you happen to get elected? It's a long shot. I don't know. It's to me, it's a sign that there's no core. If you really have a core principled belief system, you couldn't so easily abandon it. And isn't that the rub on most in politics today, that there isn't a core? That they have no problem selling out what it is they apparently believe because they really don't believe it? They just float from wherever to wherever, be it amnesty, be it Obamacare. Take the issue. Pick the issue, doesn't matter. Moisten your finger, stick it in the wind, and see which way the wind's blowing and get in front of it. Mitch McConnell said last week, you know what, we in the Senate, we have decided we're not going to criticize Obama for the balance of the year. We're not going to object to the Obama agenda. People say, why? Well, because that might have a negative impact on our presidential campaign. Really? Yeah, we can't be seen as criticizing the president. That's not what the American voters want. They want us to work along, get together, and so forth. But you're going to have a presidential campaign based on everything going on now is wrong and needs to be fixed. Well, that may be, but we're not going to engage in that kind of behavior because that might not do well with our nominee, whoever it is, blah, 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 blah. If, who knows what's going to happen in New Hampshire? You've got theories out the wazoo, just exactly like I said last week. Theory here, theory there. I can go through them all for you. Trump better win by 15. If he doesn't win by 15, he's over with. He's finished. If Trump wins by 5 or 6, it's over. You can write him off. That's one theory. Another theory is Rubio. If Rubio doesn't finish higher than 4th place, he's finished. He's done with. He's over with. And that robotic appearance in a debate, that blew it up for him. He's finished. He's over with. If Jeb wins this thing, it's an earthquake. Look out. Jeb wins 2nd place, New Hampshire. Jeb comes in 2nd place, New Hampshire. You better get ready because there's going to be a nuclear tsunami and Jeb's going to win the nomination. That's being bandied about out there. And it's all falderall. We don't know anything. We're back to where we were before the Hawkeye. A bunch of theorizing. But we're going to have some reality to react to tonight. So what people are doing, try to predict the reality in advance, various scenarios, and then tell you what you're going to be thinking if either or any scenario happens to manifest itself. And I'm here to tell you nobody knows. Because beyond Trump winning this thing, nobody has the slightest idea what's going to happen. You got the latest, there's an Emerson poll. And the Emerson poll has, what does the Emerson poll have? Emerson poll has a shock. Let me find the Emerson poll. Bush in 2nd place and Rubio slipping to 4th. And everybody says, Emerson poll? What the hell's the Emerson poll? Well, that's a student poll. Okay, so why does it matter? Well, because they called Iowa. Yeah. Emerson was the only polling outfit that said Trump was not going to win Iowa. And Trump and Cruz finishing in a tie. And so because Emerson was the only polling outfit that got close in Iowa, we now have to listen to what they're saying about New Hampshire. But if you go to CNN and their latest poll coming out of New Hampshire, you find Trump leading big, Rubio in second place, Bush and Christie in deep, deep, deep doo-doo. But then another poll has Trump winning, and then a toss-up after that, nobody knows, between Rubio and Bush. And I don't think there's a poll out there that has Christie doing second place. Not sure, haven't examined all of them. Anyway, I mean, you get my drift on this. I don't need to keep pounding this. But my point is, we would never be having this conversation about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz would never make news by renouncing his core beliefs. He would just never do. It would never happen. You have Bill Clinton out there. Bill Clinton, David Maranus, who is, or maybe it's Moranis, one of Clinton's official biographers, a former reporter for the Washington Post, was out there following Clinton around and says, it's devastating out here. It is. Clinton looks so bad, looks frail. There's no gleam. There is no electricity. There's no charisma. There's practically hardly any life. The guy is hoarse. He can barely talk. The only time he came alive was when Chelsea started talking about it, and that wasn't very much. He just doesn't look to be really with it out there. It's very. This is bad. Folks, we want great health for Bill Clinton. We want Bill Clinton in just fabulously great health for the rest of the year and beyond. We do not want Bill Clinton getting sick. We do not want to pray for the great health of Bill Clinton. Don't doubt me. You hear what Clinton said? Speaking of which, in his last appearance before the New Hampshire primary, he was in Hudson, New Hampshire. Clinton said that he wishes sometimes that he wasn't married to Hillary Rodham Clinton because then he could speak more freely. Sometimes, when I'm on a stage like this, I wish I weren't married. Then I could say what I really think. Hey, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm happy. But wink, wink. You know what I mean. If I weren't married to her, and probably some babes in the audience. But, there's another story about this. The babes, the bimbos, are all gravitating to Trump now. Because Trump's got the vigor and the whatever it is. And all the money, well, yeah, but Clinton was getting the babes without any money. Had the White House, had the bedrooms, cigars, but no money. Didn't matter. Power trumped money in that case. And then, of course, now we've got Trump. Folks, this is classic. I have to tell you, this whole Trump-Ted Cruz thing is classic. And I'm going to tell you how it's classic. For those of you who have any remaining doubts, or maybe have never even considered this, Donald Trump has a performer's sensitivity, a performer's ego. It is in his blood. He instinctively is a performer, and he gets it. What he did with this yesterday, I mean, everybody's talking about it, whether they approve of it or whether they don't. They're all talking about it, which may be Trump's objective. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, somebody blurted something out in his audience that he would love to say himself, but doesn't dare. And so he thought really, oh, my God, did I dare? Did I just hear somebody call Ted Cruz? Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he immediately jumps into gear and does exactly, my friends, I must confess, I've done it on this program before. It's the way you do this, in fact. When you want to say something, a word, a phrase, but you don't dare own it. You find somebody else who said it and then say, sorry, folks, I'm sorry, I didn't say it. Somebody else did. And if you want to be fully informed, I'm sorry, I have to tell you. The way it works out with Trump, He's out there blathering on, and some woman in the audience calls Ted Cruz the word. Cookie called me today. Cookie sent me, she sent me a note. Do you want me to bleep the word, or do you want me to leave it in? I didn't even hear it, folks. I was indisposed last night in the midst of a minor emergency/crisis. Nothing to do. No. It was just I was occupied for 6 hours. I didn't know any. No, it wasn't the batteries. No, it wasn't the battery life issue. I was collecting data for engineers, but it was not the battery. It was a totally different thing. That doesn't matter. The point is, I didn't know any of this had happened until I got here today. Cookie sends me this email. Do you want me to bleep what Trump said? So I said, well, did he use it as, was he calling Cruz a coward, or was he using it in the physiological sense? She said, no, he's calling him a coward. I said, don't bleep it. Don't bleep it. So then she sends the transcript. So, whoa. And I looked at it and I knew immediately what had happened. So this woman's in the audience, it calls Cruz a name, and Trump desperately wants that out there. He wants whoever didn't hear it to hear it. He can't dare. Well, he might have planted it. Who knows? But the point is, he couldn't say it, but he wanted it said. So how do you do it? Only a performer's instinct, only a performer's ego could cause somebody to react this quickly, this smoothly, and make all this happen the way it did. You might think it's horrible. You might want to condemn it. You might think it's representative of the rot and decay of our culture. And I wouldn't disagree with you on that. But I'm simply talking about, how do you make this happen? Who else could get away with this? Meanwhile, the political class, that they're wringing their hand. Oh, my God, I can't believe our politics has been so soiled. I can't believe, like, these guys never even think of the word. They're sitting there in the faculty lounge, and the word never comes up in the BS. These guys aim out at me saying the word, but they're out there chasing it all over campus, and everybody knows it. Yeah. Did I not mention that Jeb wanted to get rid of the Citizens United case? I thought I mentioned that. I don't even think, and it doesn't matter, I don't even think that Jeb, it's just not, it's a Supreme Court decision. It's not something just go in there and overturn and get rid of it. You don't ask the Supreme Court to go in and reject it. It's just something to say. But, here's the crazy thing. I've always made this point. And I am going to be making this point again, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't make any sense. We have all these Republicans so afraid of being critical of Obama, so afraid of appearing to be non-bipartisan, so afraid of appearing critical and so forth. So the Republicans seem obsessed with the idea that in order to get people to vote for them and to like them and to love them, that they've got to make sure everybody knows they're willing to work with the Democrats, that they will not criticize Obama, therefore they're not racists. They want to cross the aisle. They want to work with the Democrats. They want to accept the great ideas the Democrats have. They want to incorporate the Democrats' great ideas with the ideas they've got. They want everybody to come together, kumbaya, and make Washington work. And yet, Barack Obama is the most divisive president in history. There is nothing bipartisan about Barack Obama. He has done nothing but divide this country. He makes no pretense at unity. He makes no pretense of bipartisanship, and he viciously criticizes Republicans. And I have yet to hear anybody say that the independents and the moderates don't like that when the Democrats criticize Republicans. And when they don't like that, they're going to run right to the Republican Party. I never hear it said that it's a two-way street. All we ever hear is that these precious moderates and independents, they like everybody getting along. And then when people aren't getting along, they only blame Republicans for it. Obama can be as mean-spirited, Democrats as extremist as they want. They can be as divisive. They can call people names left and right. They can lie. They can make things up about Republicans, and the independents don't care. No way. Independents and the moderates don't mind. Nope, they hang in there with the extremists. They hang in there with the people dividing the country. They hang in there with the people that are not bipartisan. And yet the Republicans seem to think that that drives them away. It doesn't. What a cool trick, whoever found this one. and perpetrate, unless it's not a trick, unless it's the Republicans using it as an excuse not to have to do the work of opposing anything. And we are back. Rush Limbaugh, the cutting edge of societal evolution. Executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes at 800-282-2882. So Jeb's not afraid to criticize Trump. Jeb, no problem criticizing Marco Rubio. No problem going after any of his Republican competitors out there. But when it comes to Barack Hussein, I'm not going to criticize my predecessor. No way. Why would you criticize the single greatest destructive agent the White House has ever seen? Why would you do that? Of course you wouldn't ever criticize Obama. We can't have that. Sorry, folks, if you're not going to criticize Obama, you're never going to square with the American people what's gone wrong with this country, and then therefore you're never going to be able to fix it. If you're not able to look the American people in the eye and tell them what's wrong and what needs to be fixed and why it went wrong, you have no hope of fixing it. You're just going to be a caretaker for wherever we're headed next. Maybe slow down the direction we're going in, but you're not going to change it. Sorry, just the way it works out. Anybody else making these statements? Kasich, I'm further to the left than Hillary Clinton. You want to brag about it? Go right. He's bragging about it. I'm further to the left of Hillary Clinton. Well, let's give you a gold star. Yeah, that makes you a real man in New Hampshire, huh? This is how you score in New Hampshire. God save us. Now we have Trump out there. Look at this. You got Trump out there. So a woman in his audience calls Ted Cruz a pussy. And everybody has an absolute cow. By the way, this is how you do it. I didn't say it. Folks, don't be mad at me. I'm just informing you what went on out there. There's no way I can talk about this without saying. I can say PC whip maybe, but that's doesn't quite get there. But in the meantime, look at all of the outrage. Look at all the feigned outrage. Look at, oh my God, what's happening to our politics? Oh Lord, you believe something this just so coarse. Ooh. Yeah. Meanwhile, in the White House, we had Bill Clinton having sex with interns under the desk in the study with who knows whoever accused of rape, and the lib said, hey, it's between him and his wife. Hey, none of our business. Hey, it didn't affect the way he governed, the way he did his job. Hey, it's sex. It's none of your business. Telling you, that's what happened in the feminazi movement. They corrupted themselves way back in the 90s. That's why they are a joke today. And they're always going to be a joke. You realize a number of people, leftists and liberals, who, whether they know it or not, have actually corrupted themselves and done great damage by defending Clinton and Hillary back in those days. And it's all coming back to bite them now. So there's all this selective outrage. But let's go to the audio soundbites. This is what all happened. It's in Manchester during a campaign event. And I'll just say, it's the way I always do this, if the usage of this word in this context is something you'd rather not hear, and if your young children are listening and you don't think they've heard the word, I guarantee you they have. But you may not want to. I'll give you 5 seconds to turn the radio volume down. Don't turn it off. Don't tune to another station. That would ruin your day. Just turn the volume down. Leave it down for a couple minutes. I hope to be through with this in about 3 minutes, and then come back. And that way, you've been warned. If you hang in and what follows offends you, then you can't complain to me because I gave you ample time to extricate yourself from this. So here comes the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, theoretically, the only people listening are those who will not be offended by what comes next. Donald Trump, Manchester, New Hampshire, campaign event, speaking about Ted Cruz, interrupted by a woman in the audience.
They asked Ted Cruz, serious question, well, what do you think of waterboarding? Is it okay? And honestly, I thought he'd say absolutely, and he didn't. He said, well, it's, he's concerned about the answer because some people, she just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to... Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's a pussy. That's terrible. Terrible.
I'm just telling you, whether you like this or not, this is how you do it. Trump was presented a golden opportunity. A woman in the crowd shouts the word. He would love to say, doesn't dare say it, but he's got the cover. Asks her, condemns her for saying it. Condemns her. How dare you? You can't say that in a setting like this. Don't ever say it. And she shouts it. I told you never say it to other people. I can't hear her. What's she saying? She's saying, and then he uses the word, gets it out, but it's always in the mouth of this other woman. It's always in her voice, not his. And then he properly condemns it. The whole time he's getting the message across. Do you think, is there anybody else in this case, this same circumstance happened, that they would handle it this way? I don't think there's a one. I really don't think there's a one. Now, we're not including Democrats in this. With Clinton, if this had happened, Clinton had been bolted from the stage, and he'd been down there trying to meet the woman shouting the word. Clinton would have abandoned the stage, abandoned the event, and gone down and put his arm around this woman and asked her what she meant. But I don't know anybody else who would try to turn this around the way Trump did. And it's just, I don't know what else you call performer's instinct or what. He clearly has it. Whether you think that's a disqualifier for a serious presidential candidate or not. The next bite, this is Fox and Friends this morning, because there was an appropriate about all this. And there were people outraged, and how dare our politics be soiled like this? How dare? Of course, these aristocratic, erudite, establishment libs, both in the media and out in academia and all these places, wringing their hands over how horrible. Same people that defended Bill Clinton to this day defend Bill Clinton. The same people sitting around the faculty lounge talking and thinking about this all day long. They may not say the word, but they're out there all over campus chasing it, doing everything they can. Students, it doesn't matter. But here they are condemning Trump. So Trump's on Fox and Friends today. Steve Doocy said, you were at an event last night. Somebody in the crowd had colorful language out there about Ted Cruz.
I have to tell you, the woman shouted. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. It was like a retweet. I would never say a word like that. The audience went crazy, standing ovation. 5,000 people went nuts. They loved it. We're having fun. That's what I mean about being politically correct. Every once in a while you can have a little fun, don't you think?
It was just a retweet. Who doesn't like those? Who doesn't know what a retweet is? I didn't say it. Come on, lighten up. This is just political correctness. Over on CBS, they were not happy. We have here discussion. Former Face the Nation host Bob Schieffer, who they brought back from the mothballs, I guess, for this campaign. And they've got Gayle King, who interviewed the Obamas a couple of hours before the Super Bowl kicked off on CBS, and Norah O'Donnell. And they're talking about this outrage that happened with Trump in New Hampshire.
What about that slur, Bob, last night that he repeated from the crowd? His use of profanity. Yeah.
What's the word? A little disappointing. Americans want someone that they can be proud of in the Oval Office. I thought Trump had to be taken seriously from the beginning. What I missed is that when he would say things like John McCain is a loser and that kind of thing, I thought that's the end of it. And then when he had the thing with Megyn Kelly, I thought, well, that's the end of it. I think in a way, some of his supporters are just so mad, so frustrated and upset with the way they're going. Sometimes they don't hear what he says. They're just glad he's out there saying it.
Right. So what did Bob say? We need someone they can be proud of in the Oval Office. Like Bill Clinton. It always is going to come back to Bill Clinton, you people on the left. It's always going to come back there. You can talk about somebody saying a word, but let's not forget, you want to get all exercise, and this is so denigrating to the office, and yet what Clinton did, you celebrate it. It's not as though you even try to sweep it under the rug. You celebrate it. You try to throw that in our faces every chance you get. You throw that Clinton and the Lewinsky and all the other babes in our face. Nya, 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 nya. He got away with it, and you stuffed shirts got all offended. You dry balls got all offended. But Clinton got away with it. We love him. Nya, 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 nya. They ran around, and they made it like the biggest fun success story. Clintons are selling access to the Lincoln bedroom with who and for how much, who knows, selling coffee in the White House. All this fundraising with Chinese agents and so forth. Then the bimbos coming around, led by Monica Lewinsky, Kathleen Willey, you name it. Paula Jones, drag a dollar bill to the trailer park. This kind of trash again. That's what they're all saying. And now they're going to get exercised about Donald Trump. And some woman in his audience calling somebody a coward, which is what the usage of the word here means. Yeah, it's a little disappointing. Americans want someone they can be proud of in the Oval Office. It's always going to come back to the Clintons. You people on the left are never, ever going to understand. You undermine your own credibility and your own morality every time you start ripping into other people for their so-called moral failings. You didn't answer the bell when the champion of moral failings was in the White House back in the 90s. We will be back. Is that right? I thought my name was banned on that show. No, really, I thought I wasn't allowed to be discussed on that show. I was just told that Jonah Goldberg is on a Fox show called, Outnumbered. And I don't know even who told me, but that my name was banned and I'm not permitted to be discussed on that show. It's 4 women hosting, and they have a guy in there. That's why it's outnumbered. And Jonah Goldberg talked about me and Rubio, which we've got a lot of that coming up, too, soundbites-wise. So hang in there and be tough. Just a couple of more soundbites on this thing. I'll tell you what it shows, folks. It's an age-old theory of mine about all this. This word that the audience member shouted at Trump, and that Trump just hated that it was mentioned, and it was so he was so offended by it that he had to tell everybody what was said so that they would understand why he was offended. So he repeated the word. Here we are now, Mark Halperin on the Today Show today, being asked by Savannah Guthrie, Trump repeated a vulgar term used by a supporter at a rally last night. Are you shocked about that, Mark?
Any other candidate who did that on the eve of the election, the staff would say, we could lose the primary over this.
Yeah.
Trump and his team loved it. The crowd loved it. This symbolizes the entire Trump campaign. Different and not politically correct.
I have a question. There was a character in the movie Goldfinger that nobody had a problem pronouncing. There is a nickname for cats that people have no problem pronouncing. And that would be, as Sean Connery famously said it, pussy galore. And then you have your little pussy cat running around if you have one in your house, and nobody says a word. When somebody comes along and uses the word as a synonym for coward, and everybody's having a cow here. Here's Katrina Pearson. This is CNN's New Day Today, Allison Camerata. She's the Trump campaign national spokesperson. Camerata says, isn't there a difference between political correctness and vulgarity?
It's free speech, and this is the live free or die state. Mr. Trump is exercising his free speech. It was in fun with the audience. You heard the whole stadium roared and started chanting.
They did. I missed that. It just proves, folks. It just proves it's undefeated. Undefeated. It will never be defeated. No matter what any guy does, no matter what any guy has ever done, undefeated. Vito in Erlanger, Kentucky. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Rush, thank you very much for taking my call. I got to tell you that I'm a former Democrat who became a Republican. I've been listening to you since the 80s. I am not and never was a Clinton supporter, but I also felt betrayed by the Bushes for not standing up for what he believed in and what he represented. What I want in the White House is class. I want a class act. I don't want to hear vulgar talk. I don't want to hear anything that can be portrayed as vulgar talk. I don't want to be degrading people. I want some more civility in my politics. I just can't tolerate that kind of activity, and I really wish that Mr. Trump wouldn't do that.
You know, it's indicative of, is it not? I mean, look at the juxtaposition, the comparison. I made it yesterday in the pregame ceremonies at the Super Bowl and the halftime show. The pregame ceremonies are America on parade, patriotism more than you've ever seen. It is celebratory. It is the epitome of decency and goodness. It's the military. It's the jets flying by. It's the national anthem, always sung with respect. You get to the halftime show, and it's epitomizing the cultural rotten decay. Do you know what I found out about the halftime show today? I've got it in the stack here very briefly. Apparently, the 12-minute set performed by Coldplay and Chris Martin was a secret tribute to LGBT behavior and love. That it was that you had to be in that community to get the tribute, otherwise you wouldn't know what was going on. And Beyonce comes out with her Black Panther celebratory tune and so forth. And wherever you look, Vito, it seems like the culture is rotting away. And I'm sure you've always looked at politics, certainly the Oval Office and the White House, that would remain unaffected by any of it. And you now see even that being affected. It's got you concerned, right?
Very much so.
So who do you have anybody out there in this campaign you like that you think will resist this movement, this temptation, what have you?
Well, the guy who seems to have the most experience with what my primary issue would be, which is the Supreme Court nominees, is Ted Cruz. But honestly, I could be persuaded to support several of them because for me, right now, the Democratic Party is a socialist party, a socialist movement, and I've been working my whole life and paying my taxes my whole life in an honest and fair, decent way, and I really do not want to see us continue along the path that we're on.
I wholeheartedly agree. This cultural rot, would you say that it's localized and concentrated in the pop culture? And if you would agree with that, well, who runs that? Who are the arbiters of taste today in our politics and in our pop culture? And I'll give you a quick hint. It's not the Republicans, gang, or the conservatives. And we have lots still to come. On the Rush Limbaugh program here today, the EIB Network, Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. We got the Hillary stack and what she probably said in her speech. Turns out I was exactly right in my wild guess yesterday about her speech content, the banks, that much more coming up. No, that's exactly right. It's exactly what I said yesterday about Hillary and her speech transcripts. The reason she doesn't want those released is because she's going in there and she's praising these banks. She is just probably thanking them for saving America, doing everything they should. Probably goes in there and just praises them to the hilt. That's why everybody wants to see the transcripts of her speeches, and she won't even release them. She's been paid $225,000, $675,000 to come and give speech to Goldman Sachs. Will not release the transcript. Is it any wonder why? Here she is. She and Bernie are out there trying to be the biggest bashers of the banks out there. Now, Hillary's not all in bashing the banks like Bernie is, but she does her share of it. She does it enough that if the transcripts of her speeches were ever revealed, people would find out that she is in bed with these banks. They are propping her up. They are giving her money. They are donating to her campaign and her foundation, and she's going to reward them somehow. You know, if half the people that vote Democrat found out who really pays for and props up the Democrat Party, they would be outraged. If they found out it was the people they hate, these rich corporate titans, these rich bankers, if they had the foggiest idea that that's who it is basically funding the Democrat Party, along with the unions, can you imagine the hell to pay there would be? Well, on paper anyway. Greetings, welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here. On the day of the New Hampshire primary, telephone number 800-282-2882, email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. I say this next, not to be critical. I'm just sharing with you genuine emotions. I had, if I've received one of these, I've probably received 10. I got an email this morning. Why? Could you tell me why? Why are you endorsing Rubio? I'm not endorsing Rubio. I haven't endorsed anybody. I haven't endorsed Trump. I haven't endorsed Cruz. I haven't endorsed anybody. Well, okay, well, why are you? Is it really that complicated, folks? What I happen to be supporting is when people say something that I think needs to be said, I'm going to amplify it. To me, all of this is about ideas, and it certainly matters who wins, and it certainly matters the ideas that they have. Now, if Rubio is out saying what nobody else in the party other than Ted Cruz will say, then I'm not going to condemn him for saying it. I don't care how many times he says it. I don't care if he looked robotic when he said it. Yeah, it didn't look good, but that's not what's important to me. It's not complicated at all. Barack Obama has an executed strategy to transform this country. He has said so. If you go back and listen to Obama, as we have, in audio soundbite stating all the way back to the early 2000s, I don't care if it's single-payer health care, national health care, whatever it is, the problem with equality, the racial problem in this, whatever it is, our superpower status, Obama has let everybody know he doesn't like the way this country was founded. And he thinks this country needs to be chopped down to size. And he said when he assumed office and when he campaigned that he was going to transform this country. He loved what Reagan did. He thought Reagan was transformative, and Reagan was, in the sense that he converted this country for a few short years into a unabashed, no doubt about it, market-based, entrepreneurial opportunity society, reducing the size of government, at least thematically, and lowering taxes, promoting individual liberty. Obama thought it was massive what Reagan was able to do. He disagreed with all of it, but he wanted to do the same thing, but with his ideas. He's not accidentally making mistakes. He's not rooted in incompetence and incapability. Barack Obama is doing exactly what he planned on doing, and he's doing it well. He's done, I think Obama and Michelle probably pinch themselves at night, unbelieving how easy it has been. I think they sit there, and when they're honest with themselves, they can't believe how little opposition there has really been to it. Oh, yeah, there have been some Republicans out there talking about it, but when it comes to actually pushing back and stopping any of this, there hasn't been any. Obama's got the last budget deal. Even he couldn't believe how much the Republicans gave up. Even he couldn't believe how much he won. It's not rooted in incompetence or inexperience, what Obama's doing. It's rooted in whatever you think of it. He's got his ideas. He's got his beliefs. They are not great about this country. He thinks this country has been unjust and immoral from its founding, and it's his job to change it and turn it around, and that's what he's doing. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are the only two guys saying it. I'm not going to go out and condemn somebody for however many times they say it when I think it needs to be said. I think everybody needs to learn it. I think everybody, as many people as possible, need to understand what has been going on. And when you have, like I said yesterday, folks, how come these governors do not say this about Obama? Take your pick of any of them. Kasich, Christie, any number of them. Rick Perry, an exception, but for the most part, none of them will go anywhere near the idea Obama's doing this on purpose. They all fall back on the fact that Obama's, it's just inexperienced. He wasn't qualified. He wasn't prepared. And that's why we don't want Rubio in there. And that's why we don't want Cruz in there. These guys haven't done anything. They have no experience doing it. We governors, we make tough executive decisions every day, like destroying our states and working with Obama. And that's the key. They can no more go out and tell the truth about Barack Obama because they have helped him. Now, that may sound a little bit hard-hitting or brutal, but they have. They have worked with Obama. They can't turn around and then accuse Obama of having this negative agenda because they have helped him make it possible. Not that that was their desire. See, that makes it even worse, if you ask me. I don't think any of these Republican governors agree with Obama that the country sucks. I don't think they agree with him that it was founded in an unjust and immoral way. But they didn't stand up to it. For whatever reason, they needed money, whatever, wanted photo ops. I don't care what the reason was. They worked with Obama. They didn't push back. They did not, as Republicans, tell the people in their states why the destruction that's happening in this country is happening. They didn't point the right finger at the right direction, the right person to blame for this, which is crucial in turning this around. It ought to be a gigantic teachable moment, and yet we haven't had any teaching. It ought to be the greatest opportunity to contrast who we are and what we believe with our political opponents, because they are succeeding every day in their mission to fundamentally transform and change this country from a beacon of freedom to a beacon of welfare state dependence and forever debt. They want to cut this country down to where it's no longer a superpower. They don't want to have any international involvement whatsoever. They believe the United States is the problem in the world, not the solution. And we have people on our side who won't say it. And in fact, won't say it, can't say it, because they have, in one form or another, at one time or another, worked with and cooperated with Obama. And I'm sure they would say, hey, Rush, I got to deal with it as I see it. I'm a governor of a state. My state needs money. My state needs this federal cooperation. I can't go out there. I can't be bashing Obama. I'm not talking about bashing Obama. I'm talking about telling the truth about why the country's in dregs at its end, why the country's headed in the direction it's in. We've got to turn it around. We've got to stop it. Too many people in this country being educated that socialism is great, that socialism is fair, that socialism is the great. We are killing the engine that creates wealth. And we are going to maintain wealth in the hands of the people who have it now and nobody else. We are putting in place obstacle after obstacle after obstacle toward the creation of wealth by average, ordinary people. And it's happening because there is an ideology leading this country called liberalism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, that wants total power over citizens, believes that average people cannot take care of themselves, will not make the right decisions with their own money or otherwise. And a great teachable moment has gone to waste here for 7 years, except there have been people who have been speaking up. So when Rubio comes out and says what he says about Obama over and over again, I'm going to amplify it because Rubio's right. When Ted Cruz says it, same thing. When Donald Trump earlier in the campaign is demonstrating that you don't have to fear political correctness, I'm going to point it out, and I'm going to say it's a great thing. When Donald Trump is demonstrating that you don't have to be afraid of the media, that you can triumph being who you are if you are confident, if you believe in what you believe. We don't need to tiptoe through the American political system when we're trying to save the country. You don't have to be afraid of these things. All of this has been in evidence. I have been trying to point it out whenever somebody says or does anything I happen to agree with. That's what I promote. Sadly, I don't think it's all contained inside one candidate. There are a couple that are there that come close to embodying all of this, and some that don't embody any of it. But I have always promoted the ideas I believe, and I have always championed people who publicly articulate them, even if they might have a credibility problem here or there. And I think it happens to be very crucial. I think it's relevant as it can be that as many people as possible understand that what's happening in this country is not coincidence. It's not unfortunate because we elected somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. We elected somebody who knows exactly what he's doing, did not have the guts to tell us what he was going to do, per se. If Obama had told you all of this that was going to happen, would you have voted for him? There is no way in Sam Hill that he would have been certainly not reelected. And he wouldn't have been elected in the first place, in my view, if Obama had been honest about what his purpose is. If Obama had promised to take the national debt to $20 trillion from $12 trillion when he was in office, when he assumed office. If he had promised to make a total mess of our healthcare system so that in the future he can have the government run the whole thing. If he had told you, my plan is to so screw up the healthcare system that in a number of years you're going to be begging the government to do it, would he have been elected? No. He had to position this as though it was already broken and he was the savior, come in and fix it all. He was the guy going to make all this great. He was going to reduce global warming and lower the sea levels. He was going to bring about love and unity and respect for the U.S. all over the world. How's that working out for us? It's the exact opposite of what he said he was going to do. Sorry, people need to know it. We have a Republican Party that is not engaged in 1 day's worth of this kind of pushback over the course of 7 years. And it's just too important to continue to operate as though this is just politics as usual and the Democrats happen to win 2 elections in a row and it's coming up on our turn. This is not your dad's Democrat Party, and it sure as heck isn't your grandfather's Democrat Party. This is a Democrat Party that Fidel Castro and Mao Zedong and V.I. Lenin would applaud. And say, keep going, guys, you're on your way. This is not the Democrat Party everybody thought existed for the working man, the blue-collar guy, the union assembly line worker, the downtrodden, the thirsty, the hungry, the little guy being spoken. The little guy is getting creamed by this administration, along with everybody else except rich, uber-rich people who buy and pay and get involved in cronyism with the administration or the regime. They're doing gangbusters. And they're all going to see that Obama does gangbusters after he leaves office. He's going to be fine. Michelle's going to be fine, just like the Clintons are fine. $115 million in speeches in 10 years. I'm sorry, folks. There aren't that many people with that much money who care that much and think the Clintons are that special and that unique in order to pay them that much money to hear them come in and flap their gums. There's something else going on. And you and I know what it is. They're all buying influence on the come in the idea that Hillary might someday be president. No reason. These people don't even get invited to cocktail parties in the afternoon in the Hamptons anymore because all the dregs they attract. But somebody will sure go out and pay them gazillions of dollars for speeches, phantom speech, 25-minute, 30-minute speech, and Hillary won't even release transcript because if she did, people voting for her in the Democrat Party would look at the transcript. My God, this woman may as well be a banker. She thinks they're the greatest people on earth. She's promising to protect them. She's promising to look out after their interests. Oh my! It would be the greatest betrayal your average, ordinary Democrat, socialist voter could discover. But they would never find such a transcript of a speech by Bernie Sanders because he wouldn't do it. And as such, Bernie Sanders didn't get paid $115 million over the last 6 years or 10 years or whatever it is. So that's why I'm making a big deal out of what Marco Rubio said. It's really simple. He's right, and a lot more people need to hear it, and even more than that, need to start understanding it and believing it. We'll be back after this. Okay. Let me illustrate this one more way. You go back to Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush and his comments about not blaming Obama for a single thing, promising everybody, unlike his predecessor, he's not going to blame his predecessor if he happens to be elected president. I mean, that, how can you possibly say that knowing this is being done on purpose? What is your purpose in being in the White House? You know, I have to tell you something, folks. I have been perplexed. I understand the Bush family, and I know them, and I appreciate them. And I know the reverence they hold for the office of the presidency and the traditions therein. I understand all that. But what's been done to this country since George Bush left office, I don't know how he stays quiet about it. Now, there are certain things. Let me put myself in the equation. The best way to explain this if I were ever president for 2 terms and had succeeded in the agenda I believe in and had succeeded in promoting some idea, and the next guy comes in and starts tearing it apart and ripping it to shreds and lying about me, I am not going to stay silent about it. If it mattered that much to me that I ran for president to try to save the country, to try to put my ideas into action nationally, somebody comes along and I guarantee you Obama's not going to remain silent. I am here to tell you that whoever the next president is, Republican or Democrat, that does one thing to Obamacare or anything else that he holds dear, he's going to be out there calling whoever he likes in the media that day, and they're going to make him the lead story in the nightly news, saying Barack Obama is warning the United States of what the new president is doing. He's not going to sit by and let somebody undo this, which only makes sense if your heart and soul's in it, if you really believe it. So this making a pledge not to criticize your predecessor when your predecessor has admitted that his objective was to transform this country and turn it into something it was never founded to be. And you're saying that for praise, for like getting a gold star? Somehow that means you're polite and well-mannered and you're going to be executing proper presidential decorum? At what point do the ideas matter? At what point does your core belief and your principles matter, and at what point do they not? Well, Russia just isn't done. Past presidents are supposed to disappear. It's the polite thing to do. The American people have spoken. New man's been elected, or woman, and it's time for you to... You understand that, maybe for a couple of weeks, but if I'd poured my heart and soul in it and my core and everything else, and some lying SOB comes along, lying about me and impugning the things that I had done for the country, and especially the successes that had been had, I'm sorry, the first question on my mind is not going to be, what's the tea time today? No, I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't be the case. Maybe if I were actually elected president, served 2 terms and left, maybe the power of the institution and its protocols and its traditions would overcome me. I don't know. But I'm just trying to find a way here to express to you why, when the power of ideas, why I think they're important. Words mean things. And I'm just befuddled by people who think or who want applause and credit for not criticizing my predecessor or my opponent even. I mean, what criticism of Obama's going on now, for crying out loud? I really thank all of you who are holding on the phones. It's your turn now. We're starting with Randy in Findlay, Ohio. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Conservative vegetarian dittos to start out with.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I trust as a conservative vegetarian you're not militant about it.
Exactly.
Good.
What I wanted to ask was, what evidence is there for Trump supporters to think that he would have any more respect for the Constitution than Obama does? I mean, they're both progressives, and Trump has seemed to change his mind on so many things lately, but the main thing is just, why do they think why he would honor the Constitution?
Well, have you asked that of any Trump supporters that you know?
No, I don't know very many. I do know one in particular, but no, I have not asked.
See, because I think most Trump supporters lost you when you started comparing him to Obama. I think they don't get that. They don't see Trump as a progressive, and I don't think they see him as a conservative. They see him as not of Washington. They see him as an outsider who understands them, understands their plight, who joins them in thinking the problems in this country all emanate from a too stupid government that's too big and too overbearing and too regulatory, I don't think when it comes to Trump, I don't think his supporters are even thinking who he might put on the Supreme Court. I think it's much more personal.
Well, I just want to know why, if we don't go by the Constitution, what do we have to guide us?
Well, agreed. What I need to ask, what is it that Trump's done, said, not done, that made you believe he is not respectful of it?
Well, when he talks, he sounds a lot like, I hate to, use the analogy like Obama again, that he has a phone and a pen. He makes it sound like, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's not any, I haven't heard him mention it.
I get it. See, you're worried that Trump is sounding like Obama in the authoritarian sense. That Obama's out there saying if he doesn't get what he wants with Congress, he'll just do it with an executive order. And Trump's out there saying he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do that. And you're worried that his supporters are signing off on the same kind of authoritarian, outside the Constitution behavior that Obama's engaging in, yet that they're supporting it for Trump. It might surprise people to learn that some people actually wouldn't mind that. This is the danger, I think, when you have, and I don't know how many Trump supporters this is. It's probably not a lot, but there's some people who think that the country is in such dire straits that it may take drastic action that we don't have time for to go through the normal channels to stop some of this stuff, to reverse it. If Obama does an executive order letting them in, we're going to do an executive order kicking them out. The hell with going through Congress. Can't trust those creeps anyway. And they think Trump's the guy to do it. So I've had mostly, who articulates those fears to me? A bunch of leftist media types who sit there and applaud it when Obama does it. But they worry that the Trump support base is ignorant and is, by quirk of fate, actually endorsing and supporting almost dictatorial powers in the executive. Yet they applaud it when Obama engages in those kinds of things. I think like I said, I've spent weeks and months analyzing and explaining the Trump support base. That it'd be too long to go through the whole thing again. I just want to remind you of something, though. When Trump lights into Ted Cruz, there's nothing authoritarian about it. He lights into Ted Cruz as unable to work with the guys in the Senate because they hate him. Trump says, you got to do deals with those guys. Remember, Trump said, I can do deals with Pelosi. I can do deals with Schumer. I know those guys. I like them. I can do deals with those people. But Trump says that Cruz can't because they hate him. So Cruz would be a disaster. Well, wait a minute, Trump, what do you mean do deals with those people? And Trump's asked him, but what do you mean? We don't want to do deals with them. Trump says, no. The deals I do, they lose. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, the deals I do, we're going to win. My deals win. When we do a deal, my ideas triumph. When we do a deal, it's my deal. I'm going to kick their ass, he said. Oh, okay, fine. If you're going to deal with them and kick their butts, then fine. But make no mistake out there, Andy. Trump has sent signals that he's going to work with people and make deals with them, even though he's going to snooker them. Not snooker. He's going to beat them back, beat them down. Here's John in Cherry Valley, Illinois. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Hello. I'll be brief, and I'll get off the phone as quickly as I can. I don't care about vulgar language. I didn't even hear what he said. Everything was bleeped out. Maybe 2,000 people heard what he said. So I want the country to get better. I don't care about language. Let's get this thing straightened out as quickly as possible. It seems like the press is making a bigger deal out of vulgar language than Bill Clinton's vulgar actions in the White House.
No question about it. No question. They want to condemn Trump for what he said and applaud Clinton for what he did.
Yeah, well, that's ridiculous. And I'm going to say one more thing, second point. I'm tired of these politicians saying, go with experience. We got experience. You got to have. Yeah, we've got experience for about 2-3 decades. We got $19 trillion in
I hear you.
And we get screwed over. So they have a lot of experience.
I hear you. Exactly.
Over.
Exactly right. Where's all this experience getting us?
Yeah, nowhere. So let's go somewhere. Desperate times, you got to get someone that's different. We gave Obama a chance. Let's give this guy a chance. So I got two things to say. Go Trump, and we don't need another Bush. Thank you, Rush.
Hang on a minute. Whoa. Before you, did you really not hear the word that the woman shouted at Trump?
No, I didn't hear nothing.
You still don't know what it is?
I know it was supposed to be. I heard. No, I really didn't. Honest to God, I didn't.
You don't know what even now you do not know what the woman called Ted Cruz?
No, and if she says something bad, I don't care. I don't care. You're gonna
what am I to do here?
Everybody else in this country doesn't use vulgar language once in a while.
See, I find myself in the same dilemma that Trump had. I got a guy. I'll tell you what. Let's just play the by. Here's you missed it, and you need to hear this.
Okay.
You're upset while they're all going on and on and on about it. Here's what it is.
They asked Ted Cruz, serious question, well, what do you think of waterboarding? Is it okay? And honestly, I thought he'd say absolutely, and he didn't. He said, well, it's, he's concerned about the answer because some people, she just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's a pussy. That's terrible. Terrible.
There you go. There you go, John. That was it.
Oh, come on, Rush. I mean,
this is not that big a deal.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing. I thought it was a lot worse. I was thinking of another P word. Not that.
Exactly right. Just called him a coward. The thing is, it's not even true. The one thing Ted Cruz is not is that. There is no way Ted Cruz is a coward. It just isn't the case. But you had the woman shouting at Trump. Trump played this for all it's worth. What other P word is he talking about? John, I got people asking me what you mean by the other P word. What do you mean other P word?
Well, that's one word I can't say. I'm not going to say it, okay, Russ? It's not important. It didn't happen. I really didn't hear the word. So now that I really heard the word...
See, this is how it works.
This is stupid.
It's not important. You're tempting everybody here. You're toying with everybody here on the other P word. You got everybody dying to know what you mean, and you won't say it.
Well, I thought she called him something else. It's what you can probably do with a pin when you...
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay, I'm not,
like, you penis, that kind of thing, right?
Think of that little word.
Right, there you go. There's all kinds of ways you can get the point across. That's what we professional, highly trained broadcast specialists are capable of doing here. And remaining legal and safe, all at the same time. It is an interesting juxtaposition. I mean, here you have a presidential campaign in the old live free or die state, New Hampshire, going on, New Hampshire primary, and everybody is attempting to put forth a deeply serious, studied presidential image and character and countenance, temperament. And then over here you have Trump, who happens to be leading. And now what's happening, all the stories are coming out of the woodwork. Well, you remember what Newt's mom called Connie Chung? Have you forgotten that one? That was the old B word. And there have been Barbara Bush, I think, once called Geraldine Ferraro, something along the lines of the B word. Nobody uses a C word. That's the one thing because once again, it's undefeated. Nobody is going to go there. But the idea that this is something that doesn't happen, and it's outrageous, it does represent a coarsening. Been warning about this for, the whole time I've been doing this program. But we've been losing the battle here. It's my point. Compare the pregame ceremonies, Super Bowl, or halftime. Two completely different Americas, portrayed and celebrated. Joanna in Corpus Christy. Got to be Texas. Hi.
It's an honor to speak to you.
Thank you very much.
So I want you to start off by saying I am a very avid Trump supporter, and I think he may be the only one who's going to be able to get the job done ultimately. But I have a theory about his performance in the caucuses versus the primaries that I wanted to get your 2 cents on, see what your thoughts are about this.
Sure.
But, so I saw a bumper sticker as I was driving onto the base, and it said, "Trump, finally, somebody with balls." And I thought,
well, here we go. We've charted a course, and we're not deviating.
Right, exactly. So I thought it was an awesome bumper sticker, but I thought to myself, it takes balls to put that bumper sticker on your car these days, because it's been my experience, at least, that people who do support Trump don't want to maybe admit it as much as they would if they were for another candidate, because they don't want to be lumped into or to be considered racist.
Wait, Joanna, wait a second. I don't know about that, because Trump's crowds are much larger than anybody else's. There are people that have no problem demonstrating there for Trump by showing up through all kinds of inclement weather, going to his appearance. I don't know that there's that kind of reluctance, but your theory is that it manifested itself in Iowa.
Yes, that in a caucus it's not anonymous, whereas a primary it is. And so people who might not want to admit that they're Trump supporters to their friends and colleagues might be more likely to vote for him in an anonymous vote versus a caucus.
So a variation on the Wilder effect. Well, okay. I have the Wilder effect is when you tell a pollster that you're going to vote for a black guy, but you don't.
Oh,
you're afraid to, you don't want the pollster thinking you're a racist, so you'll tell him you're voting for the black candidate, but when it comes time to vote, you don't. So the black candidate polls really well, but then loses the election, and the liberals in the media are scratching their heads, and they've concocted the Wilder effect to explain it. He was a black candidate for governor of Virginia and was polling crazily and lost, which it ticked them all off. But you might be right. There might be people that more not want to go to a caucus and have to defend Trump, speak up for him. Who knows? I'll tell you, let me ask you this. I've got about 45 seconds. There's a budding theory. I'll play you the soundbite the next hour. That if Trump does not win New Hampshire by 15 points, that is equivalent to losing it. How do you see that?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's equivalent to losing it. I think he's going to win the election. I think he's going to win the nomination.
Well, okay.
And I think he's going to be president.
Are you military?
I am.
You are?
I'm active duty Army.
Okay, that's fascinating. So, well, look where we are here. I was going to ask what she said means, but sadly I'm out of time here. But what do you people think of this theory? You'll hear it. Frank Luntz is the guy bandying it about. If Trump does not win by a minimum of 15, that he may as well consider it a disappointment. We will be back. Don't go away. Big news, Capitol Hill. There's some hearings going on. Intelligence experts have said today that there will be ISIS attacks in this country this year, and that ISIS is successfully infiltrating all the refugees that are entering the country. I mean, they said this definitively, folks. All the while Obama and Hillary are, no. ISIS, John Kerry's out there. They're not even Islamists, John Kerry. What a dolt. And we are back. Great to have you here, Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, where we meet and surpass all audience expectations on a daily basis. Great to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. You know, we're talking about vulgarity today and coarseness in our culture and inappropriate language and all of that. How many of you saw Peyton Manning in post-game interviews on Sunday when asked what he was going to do? So he's going to drink a lot of Budweiser, going to drink a lot of beer. Now, in the old days, going to Disneyland, dude. I'm going to have a lot of Bud. I'm going to drink a lot of Budweiser. Okay, so I have some tweets here from a reporter at ESPN named Mike Sando, who thinks that this is bad behavior. This is being a bad role model for the youths of America. Now, Anheuser-Busch said Peyton Manning was not paid to say any of that. And by the way, post-game, I'm going to drink a lot of Bud. And then in the podium press conference after the game, I'm going to drink a lot of Bud. I mean, that's probably worth as much, if not more, than whatever they paid Sunday for produced spots, for produced commercials. Now, I don't know. I did see a story where Peyton might have some ownership in some Anheuser-Busch distributorships in Louisiana, where he's from. He's from Nolans, but I don't know. But it's a strange thing for ESPN, which is the home of promoting all kinds of questionable thug behavior on the field, to be talking about Peyton Manning suggesting that he's going to drink a lot of Budweiser as being a bad role model for the youths of America. Of all things, I just wanted to run it by you. Here's that story on the Super Bowl halftime show. It's, where's this from? Well, wouldn't you know, the website didn't print. Let's see if it's... I'm sorry. Oh, it is music.mic website, music.mic. Tom Barnes, staff writer, editor for this website for much of the nation. The first 2 hours of Super Bowl 50 were nothing but pregame. When halftime finally came, it was on. That Coldplay and Chris Martin put on what was called a 12-minute tribute to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender love. According to another article in the French news agency, Coldplay paid tribute to the Super Bowl's host city of San Francisco with a stage that flashed in the tie-dye of the city's 1960s counterculture as dancers on the field hoisted giant flower shapes. All of it added up, meaning it was code lingo for this is a halftime show game aimed at and produced for the LGBT crowd. Let's not forget the Black Panther contingent that Beyonce was performing for. In fact, I saw a story today, Snerdley, you'd be interested in this. It was in the New York Post. It was the entertainment section, and I think it was a woman. I didn't get her name. It might have been a guy. I did not recognize the name of the writer, so that's why I don't remember it. But it was lauding this Beyonce show. Oh, this was the greatest political statement in the history of sports, and this is in your face, and the people whose face it was in didn't even know what was happening to them. Beyonce was telling these people what for, and they didn't even know it. These people that are out there being attacked are applauding it and singing along with it, and said that this is what the Oscars ought to learn how to do. This is how you do politics in entertainment and jam it down people's throats. That whoever's doing Chris Rock and whoever is going to be appearing in a host or guest role at the Oscars, Beyonce, is how you do political statements during such things as award shows or halftime shows in public. So there were a lot of people that were really jazzed about this. But what good is a protest song if the people being protested don't recognize it? If they're sitting there applauding it, oh man, it's Queen Bey. I got Beyonce at the halftime show of the Super Bowl. This is cool. Look at those cute little black berets. Isn't that cute, Mabel? Look at these people have no idea they're being called a bunch of crackers. And they're sitting out. What good's the protest? If the people being protested, the people being told they're SOBs, walk out of there thinking it was the greatest thing they've ever seen. Don't you if you're being protested, don't you want to? I mean, if you're Black Lives Matter, don't you want the targets to end up being ticked off at you? Don't you? I mean, I'm not of the public protest mentality. So, well, okay, Well, consciousness. You want them to be aware that you think that they're reprobates or whatever. Well, I don't know that. I mean, you have two coded performances here. The Beyonce thing was probably easier to recognize. I mean, the Black Berets, the Panthers, and Beyonce out there. I thought something was wrong with the Super Bowl sound system because I was able to hear it. Well, normally you can't hear the lyrics of those things. Normally you're watching it, you can't, even people can't understand what's being said, but you could. So I thought, obviously somebody screwed up. Final polling data coming out of New Hampshire. Final CNN tracking poll. Trump leads big. Rubio in second. Bush and Christie in deep trouble. Never mind the numbers. They're buried here, but pretty much that's how the CNN poll lines up. Trump is at 31%, down 2 points from February 3rd through the 6th. Rubio, 17%. Cruz, 14%. Kasich, 10%. Jeb Bush at 7%. Where is Christie? I don't see the name. Christie. Mayor. It says here he's in deep trouble. 4%. There it is. As if you're wondering about Chris Christie, stuck at 4%. Now, the Channel 7 Eyeball News University of Massachusetts Lowell poll, New Hampshire tracking, day 8. Bernie Sanders beating Hillary by 16 points, 56-40. And the Republican side, Trump has a 9-point lead on the Republican side. Tied for second at 13. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. Then we move, this is Nate Silver's 538, where they predict percentage odds on winning. Bernie Sanders has a greater than 99% chance of winning a New Hampshire primary. That greater than 99%, that's like dead certainty, right? What if Hillary pulls it out? What are they going to do at 538? They must not be counting a Clinton fraud machine. Or maybe they are and saying the Clinton fraud machine not have to overcome it. The real numbers are Sanders 57, Clinton 40. So it's a 17-point lead for the Burnster. The Emerson poll. Everybody got a big charge out of the Emerson poll yesterday because the Emerson poll is the only one that called Iowa right. Everybody, 13 polls had Trump winning by minimum 4. The Emerson poll had Trump and Cruz tied. And Cruz actually won. So here's the latest Emerson poll. Are you ready? When you hear this, this is why everybody stood up and said, whoa, mama. Trump 31. Second place, Jeb Bush, 16. Third place, John Kasich at 13%. In fourth place, Marco Rubio at 12%, and Ted Cruz at 11%. Nowhere to be found is Chris Christie. This was always my question. Christie was celebrated for really making Rubio look bad in the debate on Saturday night. But I, of course, your host, El Rushbo, said, well, does that mean Rubio's going to lose support? And does that mean that Rubio's support's going to go to Christie? I'm just going to tell you right now, I want to prepare you because if Jeb Bush finishes in second place tonight, if this Emerson poll is right, then you are not going to recognize the news tomorrow. You are not going to recognize the Republican primary. You are going to think you have been asleep, and tomorrow you have just awakened, and nothing that's happened up to tomorrow will mean anything. If Jeb Bush comes in second place tonight, Jeb Bush is going to be treated as the winner, particularly if Trump's margin is not 15 points or whatever Frank Luntz says it has to be. But the margin doesn't matter. I'm just telling you that the establishment Republicans and their cohorts in the media are not going to be able to contain themselves. And you're going to see stories like, has all the polling up to now been wrong? Have we been worried for nothing? Has it been Jeb from the get-go? Has Jeb's money not been wasted? Is Jeb really... You'd have no idea. And all it's going to take is a second-place finish, because expectations are that Jeb is not even going to be breathing after tonight. So I'm just warning. I have no idea if the Emerson poll's right. Who does? It was right in Iowa, but that's it. But again, just a warning. If Jeb Bush comes in second place, there are people that you haven't seen on TV in months who you're going to see nonstop, wall to wall tomorrow, as though they have been around from the get-go. Don't care where it is. I don't care if it's New Hampshire. I don't care. It doesn't matter where it is. The establishment wants Jeb. They have been up to now embarrassed, paranoid, humiliated, perplexed, shocked, surprised. Remember, this was going to be theirs anyway until Trump got in. Trump upset everything. This was Jeb's race. This was Jeb's time. Jeb was going to be the nominee. All these other guys are just fodder, placeholder pretenders. Trump gets in, turns everything upside down. The Jeb PACs, the Jeb fundraisers, it's all just been blown to smithereens. And if he finishes in second place, you might still need binoculars to see him in second. But if he's in second place, just warning you, they're going to take over Fox. They're going to take over CNN, and you're going to be watching. You're going to think it's over. Jeb won. You're going to see how you have been misled. You're going to be hearing and reading about how all this stuff, the experts in the polls obviously didn't know what they were talking about. You're going to see the country wants a continued leadership of the Bushes. It's always been the case. Everything up to now, going back to last June, somehow was so dead wrong. We got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how we got it so wrong, because it's going to be looked at as though Jeb was guaranteed second place all along. Now, if he doesn't finish in second place or third place, then they've got to start looking at other alternatives. And no, I don't know. I have no feel for it. I'm just, as you know, warning you what to look for given certain outcomes. Let's go to the audio sound bites. The drive-by media obsessed with me again yesterday and last night. ABC's World News Tonight. David Muir, the anchor, talking with their correspondent, Tom Yamas, about Marco Rubio in the Saturday night debate.
Tom Yamas joins us tonight from a Rubio rally. And Tom, some prominent conservatives are coming to Senator Rubio's defense tonight.
That's right, David. Rush Limbaugh acknowledges the debate was not Rubio's finest moment, but he says the line that Rubio kept repeating is a winning strategy of Republicans. Rush saying that President Obama, quote, executed a plan to transform America into something it was not founded to be. Rush says more Republican candidates should be saying that. David?
Tom Yamas with us here in New Hampshire tonight. Tom, thank you.
Folks, I was the news. What I said was the news. Just goes to show you, it is true. And they're worried sick. More and more Republicans are going to start talking this way. It is, folks, it's such a teachable moment. It's stunning to me that more people don't see this for what it is. Anderson Cooper 360 last night. Panel discussion on Marco Rubio and me.
Rush Limbaugh came to his defense. Take a listen to what Limbaugh said.
This is what I was talking about earlier when I say I think some of these professional media analysts, God bless them, and they do hard work, and many of them, they're just fine people, but I don't know that they have the ability to see these debates the way people watching the debates on TV see them. Meaning, I don't know how big a faux pas this was for Rubio. Clearly, it was not a positive. Clearly, it was not his best. But I don't think it ruined his chances and wiped him out. like some in the media opine. Audio soundbite number 4 next is Gloria Borger reacting to this. Anderson Cooper says, these polls, Gloria, we really have no idea what is going to happen, right?
I agree with Rush Limbaugh. We really don't know, but I think it wasn't so much what Rubio said, which was, by the way, Barack Obama knows exactly what he's doing, because that has been the thesis of his entire campaign. I think it is the way he said it, which was robotic over and over again. And when Christie, to use Christie's phrase, punched him in the face, he didn't know how to respond to that.
We got to take a quick time out, but we have more. Always have more. Get to it after this. Continuing here with the audio soundbites, this is Nia Malika Henderson, CNN Anderson Cooper, last night, and she weighs in on me and the entire Marco Rubio circumstance, again, on Anderson Cooper show.
I think it's good for Rubio that he has Rush Limbaugh out there, sort of blocking and tackling in front of that really big audience that Rubio's going to need if he's to win this thing. And Rush Limbaugh has done that before, defending Marco Rubio. I think it's notable that Rush Limbaugh has come out.
So she's what is she? She's a senior political correspondent at CNN. Jeffrey Lord from the American Spectator and the New Conservative and Conservative Review, and he's prolific out there. He's also on CNN, and he weighed in after Malia Nika Henderson.
In terms of Marco Rubio, I would say it's always good to have Rush Limbaugh blocking and tackling for you. Maybe he over-messaged a little bit, but the fact of what he was saying is something Rush Limbaugh has been talking about for years. So to get to the point of what the audience hears, what Gloria was talking about, and what Rush is talking about, they are hearing this. This makes sense to them. So, I'm not sure that that's as much of a negative as they think.
Yeah, but Lord Jeffrey went on to point out, I didn't endorse anybody. And this is, just to repeat, for those of you who might have missed it, I haven't, blocking and tackling for ideas. Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz and Rubio are the only guys honestly, accurately describing Obama in this, and I think they all need to be. But look, it's old territory. I've explained why the governors can't. They can't properly characterize Obama because they've been working with him. So the only thing they can do is try to make the case that he's a bumbling idiot, not qualified by virtue of his inexperience, which happens to be what they're saying of both Cruz and Rubio. But that whole thing's blown out of the water. Obama, yeah, he hadn't spent many days in the Senate, but his whole life has been devoted to undermining the American founding. He was raised that way. He was educated that way. He was promoted that way. He was inspired that way. He's an Alinsky-ite. I mean, how much experience do you need? He's got a lifetime of it. And he happened to get elected president, not telling anybody what his true intentions were. So, yeah, he might be inexperienced in the Senate, but big whoop. How much experience do you need to sign executive orders when Congress won't work with you? How much experience do you need to know when your opposition party scared to death of you that there's nobody to stop you? What kind of experience is needed to know how to take advantage of people who aren't even going to get on the field and oppose you? Give me a break. All this experience garbage. He's got plenty of it. Cynthia in Long Beach, California, really glad you waited. Hi.
Hi, Russ. My original anger was blunted by all the lovely Trump supporters that called in, but I think that the conflation of the cultural rot from the original statement, the lead-in to what happened at the Trump rally from the woman there, and then with the Super Bowl and the whole cultural rot, it remains the same. And I know Snerdley would get angry with me by diverting, but it actually is included. The Emerson poll is probably totally correct. And just like you said, the Clinton fraud, let's not forget the GOP fraud. And we have with us the Emerson owned by Aristotle Inc., which is a D.C. Silicon Valley owned by Google, and Murdoch with News Corp. So it's probably correct. And I just want to take it back to that, of course, Trump did not say that, he repeated it. And if he had not repeated the word, which I wouldn't use, and I would never call out, and I have no idea if that person was a plant, or if that person just was excited, or if that person has a foul mouth, or maybe that's not even a foul word. Whatever.
Well, of course it wasn't Trump's fault. Trump would never use a word like that.
But what if he had not repeated it? First of all, the caller that called in and said that he didn't even hear it, I'm assuming he was in the audience. This rally was for the voters. Unlike anybody else's rallies, these rallies are held and they're live on television and everything else. So if Trump hadn't repeated it, it would of course be the pearl clutching and the fainting couches on the 24-hour news cycle and on AM radio the next day without Trump having told the 5,000 people standing out there what just was said. And it would be used by Jeb Bush and everybody else under the sun within 24 hours of let's get it together quick before the voting starts to call the narrative that is, of course, being solidified, even as I'm listening right here on hold for 2 hours, that Trump is somehow, he's crass, he's undignified. Okay. In fact, what he's done, and I do listen to every single rally and every single speech I listen to every single day to your show for 20 years. You taught me to do that. And what he is doing is restoring dignity. The dignity that was lost the day that we said boxers are briefs.
Wait, Cynthia, let me jump in here for just a second, and I want to let the audience know that might be confused. She thinks Trump is getting a bad rep. That's what she's saying. Am I right about that?
I think that would be okay, sure. Yes.
Well, is that not what you're saying?
Well, I think that the narrative is being steered from what he actually is trying to do, which is I could challenge you.
Cynthia, it's not every day that one candidate calls another candidate a pussy in a presidential campaign. You can't expect that not to be made news of.
But did he?
Well, he repeated what somebody in his audience said. Technically, no. That's your point, right?
And if he had not...
And he even admonished her for saying it, and he made sure he showed his disapproval of her saying it by saying it again so that everybody could hear it.
Because had he not, it would have they would have left not knowing that. They would have heard whatever they wanted to hear, whatever
so Trump had to control the narrative by making sure everybody at the rally knew what was said instead of hearing about it later on TV, where Trump might have been unfairly blamed when he really had no complicity in this. Is that your...
Sure, and really just blunts the whole issue. But my original call was because immediately you went from Katrina Pearson and discussion of the First Amendment to the cultural rot, which was on full display in the disgusting halftime show. And what has been done purposefully by Barack Obama, which if anybody takes time to listen to everything that Trump says, is a message that, yes, not only is it on purpose, but it's with incompetence that Obama has not even been able to do his master's bidding. He doesn't edify Obama.
Right, like okay. I've done my best here. And Cynthia, I get it. I appreciate it. I just have to move on. There's a lot of people waiting, and I think you made your point essentially that Trump had to control this by repeating the word, lest his supporters, innocent souls they are, hear it portrayed as out of context the next day, and then getting mad at Trump when he hadn't said anything. And over here you got Obama purposely participating in the corseting of our culture and that Super Bowl rot and so forth. And why are we dumping all over Trump is the point. So I got it. I do. That's why patience, folks, patience is a virtue. Reading the stitches on the fastball is all part of that. Cynthia, thank you. El Mucho. This is Bob in Spokane, Washington. You're next. Great to have you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Rush. Blue Star dittos to you. Thanks for what you do. Couple of things real fast because I know you're short. I'm tired of being told that the second and third place candidates were the winners, but on to what I was calling about. There are many different meanings for a word in our language, and I was under the impression that word that Trump repeated was short for pusillanimous, and I looked it up on Merriam-Webster, and it says pusillanimous is lacking courage and resolution marked by contemptible timidity.
Exactly right.
Now, the kicker is, in the examples of pusillanimous, it says pusillanimous politicians who vote according to whichever way the political wind is blowing.
There you go.
So, I think that I'd like to suggest it's all tempest in a teapot and much ado about nothing, and a false controversy, contrived by the drive-bys. They might want to look into the word, and yeah, it has multiple meanings, but they've run with one of them and absolutely disregarded the rest, the others.
Yeah, but no, I don't think they're disguising it. You say pusillanimous, the way the drive-bys are spreading it is that Cruz was called a coward. That works. They hate Cruz. That's the only reason this is getting a pass, is because it was said about Ted Cruz. Well, it's not the only reason. But at the same time, you can't really be. None of you can be that outraged that the drive-bys are making a big deal of this. I know we have Clinton and Lewinsky and all of that, and we had tons of that. But I don't know. I don't know that I recall one candidate being called this word by another candidate in the course of a campaign. And if you put it in the context of some of the other things that Trump has said himself and other things that have been repeated at Trump rallies, such as what he said about the Mexicans, what he said about McCain, much of it applauded. And it hasn't hurt. I think the drive-bys are still looking to take Trump out. The Republican establishment is still looking to take Trump out. I am here to tell you, and I don't want you people to doubt me, there are people who still believe Trump's going to get out of this. No matter what happens in New Hampshire, and no matter what happens in South Carolina, there are people who still, maybe it's a triumph of hope over common sense, but they still believe he's going to quit. That he's going to grow tired of it. That it isn't going to provide thrills anymore. That it's going to hit him how expensive this is, and he's going to start asking himself, is it worth the money? And there are still people. So when something like this happens, the people who think that allow themselves to get even closer to that day where Trump just says, to heck with it. Do not doubt me. There are going to be people, if Trump is the nominee, there are going to be Republican establishment types hoping that he quits in October. It's never going to go away. By the way, our last caller, Bob, he said he was sick of second and third place winners being proclaimed, or finishers, second and third place finishers being proclaimed the winners. Don't forget Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, nobody was taking seriously back in 1992. Came in second place in New Hampshire, was declared the comeback kid, and went on to win from a second place finish in New Hampshire. I'm just telling you, folks, I'm not predicting any because I don't know. I'm just telling you, the establishment is still salivating for Jeb. That's why he's still in there. That's why they're still spending and raising all this money. And if he comes in second, and there's only one poll that shows he will, that's Emerson. Only one. Everybody else has him in fourth place, like 7 or 8%. If he comes in second, I'm just warning you, you haven't seen what you're going to see starting tonight and into tomorrow morning. And it's going to, well, I won't characterize it. You can tell me tomorrow how you feel about it. Well, if he comes in near the bottom, still isn't over, because in South Carolina, anything can happen. Nothing changes then. Anything can happen. Broad-based South Carolina, nobody sweeping the decks in super. Is Jeb still in it? It's the other guys that you got to look Kasich but because the belief is that Trump's going to quit is why so many people are still hanging in there. Do not doubt me. And if Trump ever were to quit, it would shake everything up. There's the majority of voters to go where? That's what they're all hanging in for, folks. That's what they're all hanging in for. Jerry in Clark, Missouri. I'm glad you waited, sir. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Good to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a comment. Without Donald Trump in the race, we would be talking about global warming and why fat lesbians drink too much. That seems to be where...
You know, folks, before you start laughing, that's absolutely true. The things that we would be talking about in this campaign, the media would be leading and be in debates asking these about such things as global warming and all this other stuff. There's no question. And Trump, because Trump dominates the media and he leads the media around, the questions have become, Senator Cruz, what do you think of what Donald Trump said about you? And Senator Christie, what do you think about Marco Rubio said about you? You're right. Jerry here's got a good point. I don't know about fat lesbians drinking, but surely something close. I get your point, yes.
That's what they talk about the most, is the most ridiculous things. I mean, global warming my foot. I mean, there is no such thing. It's been this way since I've been born, and that's a long time ago.
I know. Global warming is, we know. So are you, is this a way you are expressing your thanks that Trump is in the race?
Absolutely.
So you're a Trump supporter?
Absolutely. And when it comes to Missouri, I'll vote for him.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call out there, Jerry. Thanks so much. You know, that is an interesting point. The things that would be discussed is valid. But we're out of time now, friends. Sadly, sorry. Time for tears, but we'll be back in 21 hours. That's it. The first wave of exit polls, if you want to believe them, my guess is around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Up to you as to whether you believe them. Anyway, we'll make sense of it all when we get back here tomorrow. Should pretty wrapped up by then, so see you then, folks. Have a wonderful night tonight. Back tomorrow.